Why are you still in the UK? Why didn't you start in different countries?
And Apple has a policy that okay, you cannot release that internal application on a public app store. So either you have to go to the your private app store or through the ABM. India is also better thing. So the point is that where you are basically feel comfortable.
As an entrepreneur, you are in UK, and how much does the tax reality affect your startup and also the decisions?
End of this month, so there are the big changes coming into the submitting of UK tax system.
Most Indian founders choose India or Silicon Valley, but Pradeep Dahiya chose Scotland. I am Sabapati. This is fifth published. Pradeep is an iOS developer turned entrepreneur, now building a ScotiTech with two clear focus areas: AppDeploy for internal app distribution and privacy first AI. We are going to talk about founder's journey, UK startup reality, and AI, and the hot parts usually people skip. Let's get into it. So, welcome Pradeep. How are you doing?
I'm good, Savapati. I'm really excited for this, the session.
It was really pleasure to have you in my podcast. It has been, I think we have spoken 2 months before, and now we got some time to record it.
I'm really glad. I'm really glad to see myself on the camera and talking with you first time. Yeah, so that's really good.
I think you are my second podcast guest who is like entrepreneur. So I'm happy to receive you, and one more special thing that we both started as a iOS application developer, and but you turned as a entrepreneur. So you were writing a Swift code earlier as a developer. At some point, like you flipped to like entrepreneur. What actually happened? What was the trigger behind it?
It's not a any emotional story behind this journey. So as you know that I started as a mobile application developer, and over the years, basically, I realize something is missing into the mobile application industry. What I realize is sometimes, building applications are not much challenging, but the challenge part is that how you distribute them. So when you are, the distributing, those application, you have a, very limited options. Like for iOS applications, we have only App Store. For Android, we have only Play Store. So but what about, so if we're talking about those the internal mobile application, so that's the major thing. So that's inspired me, basically that gap inspired me. So what about those, the internal mobile application, how do you deliver them? So we'll talk later in this podcast that this idea, but it was a, the inspiration for me to the develop the ScotiTech first, AppDeploy, and related AI things as well. So that's we will discuss later.
Yeah, super cool. Actually, you saw some different thing in App Store, and you want to have it in internal distribution. So that sounds good, and also like so I would say that I have seen so many entrepreneurs like they saw some gap in the market. So what did you actually see, and how long did you sit on it before you moved to entrepreneur?
That gap I noticed. So when as I remember, it's a story of 2019. So when Apple introduced their Apple Business Manager, okay, ABM, and when they introduced that, so simultaneously they said that so we are going to the discontinue that Apple Enterprise account. So because we would like to separate those internal mobile applications to the the normal public applications. Okay, so that's the thing, that's the time basically. So what triggers me? But it was the story of 2019. So that I did so many the research over this idea, and then I realized that okay, yeah, this is something that we can build up because it's a gap. So let me tell you what the gap is. So gap is if you have an internal application and Apple has a policy that okay, you cannot release that internal application on a public app store. So either you have to go to the you know your private app store or through the ABM. So the problem is if you are going through the ABM, so then it's an managing them, those application basically through ABM is a bit the complicated, just because we need to integrate the very the limited version of MDMs with the ABM. So because we don't have any options to the distribute any application directly through ABM like App Store. And if you are the enrolling a MDM over there, so then it means added the lot more complexity and the management cost as well. So the problem is AppDeploy is a solution of that thing. So AppDeploy is a tool that is the purely basically runs on your own infrastructure, your organization's infrastructure, and it will connect with the ABM without any hurdle, and it will give you the more statics, more freedom to install your internal application. Those are live on ABM. So it will give you statics, it will give you the installation links, and it will give you a the single platform to download your Android and iOS applications from the the single platform. So this is another one-on-one solution, basically one and only solution for your internal distribution.
Exactly. I understood that what is like Apple's one, and also earlier we used to go with the MDM profiles, right? Like JMF or something like with the organization, internal organization, they will have some things. So now that's real foundation. Like now you didn't build a ScotiTech in Bangalore or San Francisco. You went to Scotland. I want to understand what is the choice. I want to understand that choice. What made you to go with this?
So the UK. So why I started everything, my dream basically, my technology, the organization. So in UK. So first I did some research and I found that the UK has a the mature ecosystem for startups at this moment. Okay, you will get the a clear basically way to do everything. Your accountancy, your the compliances, your everything you can easily get the follow everything. And the next thing, the major thing that is credibility, I would say. So if you are basically operating your technological the company or any kind of organization from the UK, that means the a small credibility basically is always the travels with you. Okay, so that means yeah, it won't help you to to gain a trust instantly, but yeah, people do believe in UK's infrastructure and ecosystem and everywhere, so they know everything. So that's the major part that basically the inspire me to start my the startup with the UK.
Yeah, exactly. I have so many questions from this conversation, like this answer. Like you mentioned about the tags and everything, like credibility and other stuff. So I would be asking those questions in the following UK ecosystem. You mentioned about the UK ecosystem. So I have a doubt. Like Scotland have a smaller tech scene when compared to the London, right? And I would like to ask you like this question, like why are you still in the UK? Why didn't you start in different countries in Europe?
Yeah, in Europe, it's a is as I said that there are the supporting ecosystem. Okay, I have a one-to-one mentor basically enrolled with the business gateway, and the business gateway is is really helpful in every way. So they are organizing a the webinars, one-to-one lesson, and you know in person the meetings to basically the to explain you everything. So I have learned so many things with the business gateway. So that's the ecosystem I never saw anywhere else.
So
Okay,
you
that's
are
a great
so
support.
comfortable with UK more
Yeah,
than.
I'm 100% comfortable with the UK, and I would like to grow with the UK. Actually, I have a the intel or maybe my research says that the UK is about to basically invest into the AI field a lot in coming years. So that's the good thing for me, just because I am building something on AI, and if I have a news that okay, UK is going to lead that, the industry, Luya is going to lead that thing. So that's the good thing, and that's the big inspiration for me as well.
Thanks for sharing this amazing story. Like, so I have a important question. Like, if someone want to start to like to found some company in UK, or which one do you think, like, is India is now a better bet or than the UK, or UK is much better?
On that thing, I don't have much to speak, because I never tried the India in terms of the support. So because as an Indian, so I did my education from there, so I did actually a job there. So India is also better thing. So the point is that where you are basically feel comfortable. So I feel comfortable with the UK ecosystem, so that's why. So I started here. And it doesn't mean that India is not supportive. So India is supportive, Europe is supportive, US is also the major country, so where mostly startups grown. So I'm not criticizing anything, but yeah, I feel comfortable with the UK. And here people in Scotland, so they are really helpful.
I came to know about the UK corporation tax, but I am not sure how does it work. But as an entrepreneur, you are in UK, and how much does the tax reality affect your startup and also the decisions?
um, yeah, that's an interesting question. So because recently so many things has changed within the UK, basically tax system, and the laws, governance, and a lot of things. From end of this month, so there are the big changes coming into the submitting of UK tax system, and we cannot do it manually anymore. Okay, we need a the electronic softwares, or the subscriptions kind of thing, to submit our the file the file returns, and the corporation taxes, and for everything. So everything is going digital, so nothing is manual as of now. So initially, so what we used to do, so we used to calculate everything on paper, pens, and the excels and everywhere, or we need to hire some accountants. And then we have a the manual process of submitting our annual tax returns. It's a the lengthy process. We have to basically give each and every uh, you know uh, basically calculations to HMRC. Okay, it was a the lengthy and a complicated process, but as of now, so it is this it's simple and easy, because it's a digital now. Okay, so that's a process, that's a the change, and I think accountants also doing the same thing, so they are following the trend.
So, what about your future plans? Are you going to stay in Scotland or and be a citizenship and get a citizenship? Yeah.
Honestly, Sabapati, so nobody can predict future. Okay, but yeah, so first my plans is I would like to basically introduce my products, my ideas, my thoughts into the entire UK, and then I will like to expand globally. Okay, because I have some the good the relationship with China, and because I sold my product in China as well, and the European region. So yeah, I would like to expand there into the the whole world.
One more question, like, so how do you actually get the clients from the Scotland or China? So since it's a enterprise solutions, right? So how do you approach? Do you attend any meetups or conferences or a LinkedIn? So which one works for you?
First of all, it's the network, and first of all, I would say it's your intentions to the expand. I have attended a lot of as you said, meetups, the tech meetups in Glasgow. So they are running. So I'm a part of Digital Trustee, so which is you can say that I have attended the multiple events of that, so which helps some the charitable organizations, and you can find some the good connections over there. I have a the product launch on Product Hunt, so I got a lot of queries from there. Okay, so what kind of product it is, and what you are doing, what problem that you are facing. So everything works together. Your the meetups, your social profile, your awards, your team, your cold emails, your marketing strategies. I have hired some the AI tools as well, the third party AI tools for marketing, for sending a cold email. So from everywhere, so I we cannot say that only the the single channel is the enough for doing a business, for generating leads. No, so you have to spread everywhere, everything. So that's the major part.
Like now we have some answers around the ecosystem, how it works in UK and business. Now let's talk about your exciting application AppDeploy, which is an enterprise solutions for the mobile developers. So and you have mentioned about how you started this app deploy. I have seen in your website, like you mentioned something about the guideline 4.3b. Instead of fighting the review process, you build this application. So is this actually how it started?
Yeah, that's a the true story. Actually, we developed a so we were looking for something, a basically concrete thing, that how we the proof that the app deploy works. So we took a challenge, and we developed a mobile application which is into the the field of the astrology or palm reading. So because I was a the mobile application developer since long time, so I know what Apple is looking for. Okay, what they can reject, what they can approve, I can assume that thing. So I had an idea that okay, so this palm reading and astrology things are on a saturated category, and I intentionally choose that category to the get rejections, basically, to get the challenge. Okay, and develop that application with the help of AI. So what that application is itself a unique one. So because if you are providing any some details, and it will the predict your future, your predict your financial things, predict your uh, on a daily basis or monthly basis, your the lifetime events. So everything done through the AI in that application. So because we can trust something on AI calculations. Okay, but when we try to hit that the application to release on public app store, and the Apple comes up that okay, so this is under the 4.3 guideline, and this is a saturated category, and we are not allowed to release these kind of applications on app store. That's what we were expecting, actually. Okay, and we tried to dig them the continuously, that okay, we have changed the name, we have changed the the description and everything. So we tried a lot of things to make that application live on Apple app store. It was not a single attempt, so we attempted multiple times, and each and everything, by changing its name, by changing its graphics, by changing its the content, by changing its language, a way of operations, everything we tried. But the Apple said that no, it still comes under the saturated category, and we won't allow these applications to release on public app store. So that's what actually we were looking for. Okay, after a multiple attempts, it wasn't successful. Then I tried that application through ABM. On from the ABM, I give them an explanation. So this is for the the specific audience, not for everyone, and we got an approval in first attempt. That's the power of ABM. So if you are releasing your mobile application for your particular audience, you have a particular set of audience, whatever its content. Okay, but you will get an approval from that. So but instead of distributing that application through the MDMs or enterprise account, so again that the challenge comes in front of me. Okay, I have got a the approval, but how I will they distribute these applications to everyone. So how my users will get that? So that's a solution that I was looking for. Okay, so because I don't want to spend so many, the pounds on, the subscription of Intunes and or Citrix, or I don't have a, the enterprise account. What I should do? I'll release that application on my own platform, AppDeploy, and you can easily download that application from that, my AppDeploy portal, appdeploy.scotitech.com. That's successful. That's a success story. So that's a, actually a learning from for everyone. So if you have an enterprise application, you are getting continuous failures, you have a, the restricted category, you have a, your app comes under the saturated category, we can help to release that application on IBM. We can help to distribute that application through AppDeploy.
I have one question. Like I have used Applivery and App Center. Now App Center it was really good, but it's deprecated now, right? Applivery is more powerful, but it has a MDM infrastructure, right, to get started. So I have seen the differences in your website. So between these three, so can you give us from your point of view, how does it works and how it is much better than these two?
My AppDeploy and difference between Applivery and App Center is, as you said, it's it's not in action anymore. Okay, so first thing is Applivery comes with the subscription. So and you have to upload your application on their portal. First thing is privacy. Okay, and if you have your internal tool deployed on your infrastructure, so that means your application is not going outside anywhere else. So you have your the control on your own data, own application, own assets. Okay, and second thing is Applivery requires to sign your application with enterprise account, might be. Okay, but it's not easy to have the enterprise account as of now, because Apple is basically the discontinuing so many enterprise accounts just because of the misuse of them. Okay, so they have introduced ABM for enterprise business, so okay, go for that. And um, another thing is the simplicity. What simplicity in terms of is, you don't need any external resources, you don't need any, the team to upload that, you don't need anything to manage that. So you only need a, the one time integration of your ABM with AppDeploy, and it's a magic, every time. So whenever you deploy your application, you release your application through ABM, so it will reflect in your, the AppDeploy, and it start working. So that's the simplicity. You don't need to put your extra efforts. So to conclude, what you are getting with the AppDeploy and what you are not getting with Applivery and other tools. First is security. Second is its cost effectiveness, and second thing is simplicity. Last thing is simplicity. Okay, so if you are getting three benefits, four benefits out of your other tools, then obviously, so I'll go with that.
Yeah, I have a question. Like in these application that runs on the MDM, right? You mentioned about the ABM, but MDM is like a device management. It will create you profile in your mobile. So you sell these things to clients, right? Enterprise clients. They do have the employees. So what if the employee leaves the company, and how does it works? If they leave, like how do you manage from the AppDeploy?
So that's the deep thing. All those applications, those are not allowed on public app store. Has a the internal employees applications, and those internal employee applications are basically runs on employees account. Okay, those application who the major thing is to release your application on public app store. If you have a, the options to create your account, then that application itself must have an options to delete that account. If you have an, the account for your employees from your backend, then you can easily discontinue that account if he leaves, and that application is not useful for anyone, don't have an access of that application. And the simplicity is basically, so most of the MDM features we don't require on regular basis. If you are leaving from your organization, it doesn't mean that your organization keep your account active, and whether you have an application in your phone or not, it doesn't matter. If your account is not active, you won't be able to access it.
But I have one more doubt, like how does it solves? So when we release a bad build, that might goes to up to 500 devices, 500 users, right? So in this case, so does user need to install manually, or they have a specific feature to upload the correct build?
Whenever there is a new version release for ABM, so that automatically reflect with the users.
Now let's move to your another product, which is a AI product, right? So you have this AppDeploy, which is a live product. So what about you are building some AI product? How does it works?
That's also a, the interesting product, but that's not simple as app deploy. Yeah, so because app deploy doesn't require a massive infrastructure to run a smart workspace. I will say that name because that's a, the white label product, so you can run within your organization or any organization with any name. So this product doesn't have a name, so we are calling it smart workspace because, so this is our, the workspace. There is a, the definitely 100% need of, the workspace for all organizations. Whether we have, the multiple options like, the Google Workspace, Microsoft 360, and the Joho. Here we are not fighting with small organizations. We have a, like a, the Microsoft or Google or, other workspace that we are competing. So that product is not much simpler. It's a, the kind of workspace with AI features.
So I have one question. Like, so you have your own AI model, or you will be having certain AI models like Codex or Sonnet.
No, or our own AI. It's a,
Okay.
the fresh mind. It will be get trained with organization's data. So when we deploy our product into the organization's infrastructure, it will be a fresh. So it will have a knowledge. It will be able to code, but it don't have any knowledge about the previous things.
So sounds good, interesting actually. Like so, you mentioned about the data risk that other like public AI models, but still there are some issues happening. But certain AI models they do carry forward the GDPR guidelines and the policies. So it's interesting that you have own model. So I think like we go with the segment called the startup challenges. So where you have a lot of challenges, right? Being an Indian and you settled now in UK. So as a Indian founder, you might have faced some challenges. I'm like credibility. You mentioned like that cost you more than it would have cost someone local, right, from the local areas, right? So how did you manage those things?
I don't face that much challenge, against the locals, just because the UK support diversity a lot, literally. They support diversity, honestly. And I don't face any challenge that that related to that. Okay, I'm from India, and I won't get that support. Nothing. Whether you are from any part of the world, so UK is the country, so where you will treat on a, on the, the each and every, the equal scale, you can say, and you will have an access of everything. So whatever the, the locals or everyone have, that's, I really appreciate the UK ecosystem into that. Okay, it treats everyone equally, everyone. So whether you are in from any country, you are from any religion, so it doesn't matter. And I got failure many times. It wasn't a, yeah, but I learned a lot from my own failures. So what I did wrong, and you know what I can learn from my own mistakes. So I, the noted down everything, and I started working on that. And I would appreciate, the Daniel, so who supports me a lot.
Yeah, so I have one more question. Like in terms of profits and investment, so where does the ScotiTech usually sit right now? Since so you started recently, so how do you build those things? So do you need to do any reinvestment on this?
Luckily, I would say so. ScotiTech falls into the top. You can say that the 5 or 7% of organizations in Scotland. So basically, so who is earning money, or who is gaining a profit within the first year of launch. So mostly startups are the either building a technology, or struggling a lot of the getting a clients, and the converting them, and a lot of things. So but luckily, so because we are basically the did a we did basically a hard work before launching that thing. Okay, before launching ScotiTech, and majorly part that product, as you can say anything, so whatever the factors were. But as of now, recently I filed a my last year basically accounts, and I did everything by my own. Because if you are running a startup, then you need to be the multitask. I'm an accountant in my own company. I am a HR, so I'm a developer. So, so I'm wearing a multiple hats as of now. So I did that thing for ScotiTech, and I, the paid, the corporation tax as well. With the help of tools, I learned a lot with that process, and I'm quite happy to see those figures. That okay, after the the salaries, rents, bills, that still we made a profit, and we are the proudly paying a tax to the UK government.
Yeah, it seems really interesting, and I would say that like you have started from yeah, developer, and now you become a founder. So it is an interesting transition for you. And as a listener, I would say that it's really interesting. And if someone wants to like be an entrepreneur from India to UK or some Europe. So, what would be your piece of advice?
With my experience, I would like to give an advice that work, basically try to find a gap. Work on to the the core problem instead of following a trend. Okay, if everybody is working with AI, okay, everybody is making a SaaS tools, you know, and I choose to develop an the enterprise AI. So that's totally different route. Okay, everybody is here for what they are doing. So they are the building a SaaS tools with the help of AI. So they have a the subscription of AI tools, and they are start building a mobile applications, and they are basically building them. Okay, don't follow the trend. Okay, my the first honest advice is just try to find the gap. So where the actual gap is, do not you know just provide so whatever is not needed. You need that thing, okay, you can build up that thing for yourself, but you cannot assume that thing that is required by the the group of people or group of organizations or anyone else. So first, just validate your idea, and then start building that thing, or just feel that idea that okay, there is a gap, and that gap can be filled with this technology, and then okay, so let's develop that thing. So that's my honest advice.
Okay, thank you so much, Pradeep, for joining us this session. It's really interesting to learn more about your startup challenges and your journey, and how did you start your exciting product, AppDeploy. So I think like listeners can relate to their their ambition if they want to start a like a business or entrepreneur in Europe or somewhere else, I think they will take you as an inspiration to go with this. And your enterprise solutions are really good, and you have chosen this enterprise solution as your path. It is really interesting. Some of the founders, they found it difficult to find out their ambition, or they go with the trend now, and difficult to understand the gaps. So you have sorted out everything. And I would like to ask you a few questions, like where do the people can reach you, follow you, and follow your work?
I'm on social platform, the Digital Trustee, and you can find me on the Tech Founders. Tech Founder is basically the group of basically tech peoples in UK. Okay, and I will share my LinkedIn profile as well with you. Okay, you can mention that thing. And I have my own website, so pradeepdahiya.com. Okay, you can visit that website, and anyone can connect through that. So they have enough, the contact details. Yeah, so I'm everywhere.
Dear audience, like you can find out those links in our description box. So and you can connect to Pradeep Dahiya, and you can get some help from him. Yeah. Thank you, Pradeep. And I'm Sabapati, your host, Swift Published. See you the next episode. Stay tuned. Thank you.